Have you ever felt that quiet tightening in your chest when you hear two deadly viruses mentioned in the same sentence? A sense that something important is being said, but not clearly enough to feel steady. A patient of mine once shared that she stopped listening to the news altogether because every comparison sounded like a warning she could not understand. I want you to imagine this for a moment. Sitting at your kitchen table with a cup of tea, hearing information that is calm, clear, and meant to help you feel grounded rather than rushed. I am Dr. Evelyn Carter, and for more than 4 decades, I have cared for older adults through many seasons of health news, outbreaks, and changing medical language. What I have learned is this. Fear rarely comes from illness itself. It comes from confusion. When viruses are compared without explanation, the mind fills the silence with worry. That is especially true for seniors who have lived long enough to remember different health scares, and who now carry responsibility not only for themselves, but for spouses, children, and the independence they value so deeply. Today, we are talking about Nipah virus, and how it is often mentioned alongside other deadly viruses like Ebola or COVID. Comparison does not mean they are the same. Each virus behaves differently, spreads differently, and affects the body in its own way. Doctors compare illnesses to understand them better, not to suggest that danger is close. The purpose of this video is not alarm. It is clarity. Understanding replaces uncertainty. Calm information protects emotional safety. Many older adults tell me they worry less about themselves and more about being a burden or losing control of daily routines. That concern deserves respect. This conversation is meant to be gentle and steady. Knowledge is not a warning bell. It is reassurance when shared with care. In the next part, we will walk through these differences slowly and clearly, so comparisons make sense instead of creating stress. If this kind of calm guidance helps you feel steadier, please subscribe, like, and share Senior Health Daily. It allows us to continue creating thoughtful content just for you. This channel is a place you can return to whenever health news feels overwhelming, where dignity, patience, and understanding always come first. Understanding Nipah virus and why it is often grouped with other deadly viruses. When people hear the name Nipah virus, it is often mentioned in the same breath as other deadly viruses. That alone can feel unsettling. From my years of caring for older adults, I have learned that the mind naturally connects unfamiliar names with danger. But medicine works best when we slow down and separate what sounds frightening from what is actually happening inside the body. Nipah virus is a rare virus. That word rare matters. It means most people will never encounter it in their lifetime. At the same time, doctors pay close attention to it because when it does appear, it can cause serious illness. Rarity and severity are two different ideas, but they are often confused. Something can be rare and serious without being an everyday threat. That distinction is important for emotional safety, especially for seniors who already carry enough worries. Nipah virus was first identified in the late 1990s during an outbreak connected to animal exposure. Since then, cases have appeared only occasionally and usually in very specific settings. Doctors group Nipah virus with other deadly viruses, not because it spreads easily, but because it helps researchers study patterns. Comparing viruses allows scientists to understand how they behave, how the immune system responds, and how care can be improved. These comparisons are tools for learning, not warnings meant for daily fear. I often explain to my patients that medicine uses categories the way libraries use shelves. Books placed near each other do not tell the same story, but their placement helps people find information. Nipah virus sits near other severe viruses in medical discussions because of how it affects the body when infection occurs, not because it behaves the same way or poses the same everyday risk. For older adults, this context matters deeply. Many seniors I care for are thoughtful, responsible people. They listen carefully and worry quietly. They think about their spouses, their grandchildren, and whether they will still be able to manage daily routines. When information lacks context, it can feel like a loss of control. Clear explanation restores balance. Understanding why Nipah virus is grouped with other deadly viruses helps replace confusion with perspective. It reminds us that doctors study worst-case scenarios so that everyday life can remain calm and protected. Awareness does not mean alarm. It means respect for knowledge and trust in the body's ability to respond when guided with care. As we continue this conversation, remember that learning is an act of steadiness. You are not preparing for danger. You are choosing understanding. That choice supports dignity, patience, and confidence, which are powerful companions in healthy aging. How Nipah virus transmission differs from viruses like COVID. When people hear comparisons between Nipah virus and illnesses like COVID, one of the first fears that arises is about how easily infection might spread. This is where clarity matters most. From decades of caregiving, I have seen how misunderstanding transmission creates more anxiety than the illness itself. So let us slow this down and talk calmly about what doctors actually mean. Viruses do not all move through communities in the same way. COVID spreads primarily through the air, especially they in crowded indoor spaces. Casual contact, shared air, and everyday interactions play a role in its transmission. Nipah virus behaves very differently. It does not spread easily through casual daily contact. It requires close, specific exposure, often involving direct contact with bodily fluids or infected animals in particular environments. Most documented Nipah virus cases have occurred in settings where people were caring for sick individuals or working closely with animals that carried the virus. This is not something that happens during a trip to the grocery store or a conversation with a neighbor. That distinction matters, especially for older adults who may already feel cautious about leaving home or maintaining routines. In my practice, I have cared for many seniors who quietly worry that any illness they hear about could suddenly disrupt their independence. Understanding transmission helps restore a sense of control. Knowing that Nipah virus does not spread through brief encounters allows the nervous system to relax. It reminds us that awareness does not require withdrawal from life. Doctors emphasize close contact transmission because caregiving environments deserve thoughtful attention. When someone is caring for a sick family member, providing comfort, or assisting with daily needs, understanding hygiene and guidance becomes important. This is not about fear. It is about respect for the caregiving role and the dignity of those receiving care. For older adults, especially those caring for spouses or family members, this information can feel personal. Many seniors I have worked with are deeply compassionate people. They worry about doing the right thing. Clear knowledge helps them continue caring with confidence instead of hesitation. It is also important to remember that public health guidance exists to support calm decision-making. Doctors monitor viruses like Nipah not because they expect widespread outbreaks, but because early understanding prevents confusion later. Monitoring is a form of preparedness, not prediction. By understanding how Nipah virus transmission differs from more familiar illnesses, we protect emotional safety. We allow daily routines to continue. We keep perspective. Health is supported not only by medical facts, but by the calm confidence that comes from knowing how the body and the world actually work. As we move forward, hold on to this idea. Not all viruses behave the same way. Understanding those differences helps replace vague fear with steady awareness, which is one of the strongest foundations for healthy aging. Why doctors compare Nipah virus to Ebola, and why the differences matter. When doctors mention Nipah virus alongside Ebola, it can sound alarming at first. I understand that reaction very well. Over the years, many of my older patients have told me that hearing the word Ebola brings back memories of frightening headlines and images that felt overwhelming. That is exactly why this comparison deserves a calm and careful explanation. Doctors compare Nipah virus to Ebola because of seriousness, not because they behave the same way in everyday life. Both viruses can cause severe illness when infection occurs, and both demand careful medical attention. This level of seriousness places them in the same category for researchers who study how the body responds to intense viral stress. In medicine, comparison is often about learning, not predicting. Where the comparison stops is just as important as where it begins. Ebola spreads through direct contact with bodily fluids, often in outbreak settings where healthcare systems are under strain. Nipah virus, while also requiring close contact, has appeared in far more limited and specific situations. Its spread has most often been linked to certain animal exposures and caregiving environments, rather than widespread community transmission. In my caregiving experience, I have seen how easily the mind fills gaps when information feels incomplete. Seniors are especially thoughtful listeners. They tend to imagine how illness might affect their ability to care for a spouse, maintain routines, or remain independent. Without context, comparison can feel like a warning sign. With context, it becomes a learning tool. Doctors use the Ebola comparison to highlight the importance of early recognition and careful care, not to suggest that Nipah virus is circulating widely. This distinction helps us understand why medical teams prepare protocols long before most people ever hear the name of a virus. Preparation is a quiet process that happens in the background so daily life can remain steady. It is also worth remembering that medical language often sounds stronger than everyday language. Terms like deadly or severe are used to guide clinical decision-making. They are not meant to define your personal risk or daily safety. For older adults, hearing this explained clearly can ease the sense of urgency that comparison sometimes creates. I often tell my patients that medicine looks at the edges so the center can remain calm. Studying serious viruses allows doctors to protect communities through knowledge rather than reaction. That approach respects both physical health and emotional well-being. Understanding why Nipah virus is compared to Ebola, while also recognizing the important differences in spread and context, helps restore balance. It allows us to respect medical seriousness without absorbing unnecessary fear. That balance is especially valuable as we age, when peace of mind becomes just as important as physical care. As we continue, keep this perspective close. Comparison in medicine is about understanding patterns, not forecasting danger. That understanding supports dignity, patience, and trust, which are powerful anchors in healthy aging. How Nipah virus symptoms differ and why early signs are often misunderstood. One of the quiet challenges with Nipah virus is that its early symptoms do not announce themselves clearly. This is something I have seen many times in my practice with different illnesses, especially among older adults. When symptoms feel familiar, the body often tries to normalize them. That is a very human response. In the beginning, Nipah virus can look like many common viral illnesses. A low-grade fever, headache, muscle aches, or a feeling of unusual fatigue may appear first. These are symptoms most seniors have experienced before, sometimes dozens of times across a lifetime. Because of that familiarity, the mind often says, "This will pass, get some rest, drink fluids, and carry on." That instinct is rooted in resilience, not neglect. What makes Nipah virus different is not how dramatic the early symptoms feel, but how quickly the illness can change once it progresses. In some cases, neurological symptoms such as confusion, drowsiness, or difficulty concentrating can develop. These changes may be subtle at first. For older adults, especially those already managing memory concerns or mild cognitive changes, early signs can blend into daily fluctuations that feel normal. I have cared for many seniors who downplay discomfort because they do not want to worry their families. They may dismiss headaches as tension or fatigue as part of aging. This tendency comes from kindness and independence, but it can also delay attention when something new is happening in the body. Understanding this pattern helps caregivers and families listen more gently and ask calm questions, rather than waiting for symptoms to become obvious. Compared to more familiar illnesses like seasonal flu or COVID, Nipah virus does not follow a predictable script. With flu, symptoms often peak and then improve within days. With COVID, respiratory symptoms often guide people to testing. Nipah virus does not always provide those clear signals. Its unpredictability is what draws medical attention, not its frequency. This does not mean older adults should live on alert or monitor every sensation. That approach would create anxiety rather than safety. Instead, the goal is awareness with compassion. Paying attention to changes that feel unusual, persistent, or different from personal norms is enough. The body communicates quietly, especially as we age. From a caregiving perspective, the most important message is trust. Trust the body's signals, and trust that asking for guidance is not weakness. It is wisdom. Early conversation with a healthcare provider does not assume the worst. It simply opens space for clarity. Understanding how Nipah virus symptoms differ from more familiar illnesses helps replace confusion with perspective. It allows seniors to remain respectful of their bodies without becoming fearful of every ache or fatigue. That balance protects emotional safety and preserves dignity, which are essential parts of healthy aging. As we continue, remember that knowledge is not meant to make you watchful. It is meant to make you confident in knowing when something truly feels different. How the aging immune system responds differently to viruses. As we grow older, the immune system changes in quiet and gradual ways. This is not a flaw or a failure. It is part of the natural rhythm of aging, much like needing a bit more light to read or a little more rest after a busy day. From my years caring for older adults, I have learned that understanding these changes brings relief rather than worry. In younger years, the immune system tends to respond quickly and aggressively to new infections. It recognizes threats fast and often clears them before symptoms linger. After 60, the immune response becomes more measured. It may take longer to recognize a new virus and longer to organize a full defense. This slower response does not mean the body is weak. It means it works with experience rather than speed. With viruses that behave predictably, such as seasonal flu, this slower response often shows up as longer recovery time. Fatigue may last a bit longer. Appetite may return more slowly. The body still heals, but it asks for patience. With less familiar viruses like Nipah virus, doctors pay closer attention because the immune system has not built memory against it. When the immune system meets something entirely new, age can influence how clearly the body signals that it needs help. In caregiving settings, I often see seniors attribute prolonged fatigue or mental fog to normal aging. They may say, "This is just how 60 or 70 feels." Sometimes that is true. Sometimes it is the immune system quietly working harder than usual. This is why listening to changes over time matters more than reacting to a single symptom. Simple science helps explain this. Immune cells still function, but communication between them becomes slower. Inflammation may last longer once it starts. Recovery asks for more rest and hydration. These changes make awareness more important than urgency. The goal is not to rush the body, but to support it. What reassures me most is how resilient older adults truly are. I have watched patients recover from serious illnesses with grace and strength because they respected their limits and accepted care when needed. Aging brings wisdom about when to push forward and when to pause. Understanding how the immune system changes allows older adults to approach health decisions calmly. It removes self-blame and replaces it with respect. The body is not failing, it is adapting. This perspective is especially important when hearing about unfamiliar viruses. Knowing that your immune system works differently helps you make thoughtful choices without fear. It encourages conversation rather than silence. It invites support rather than isolation. As we move forward, remember that immune health after 60 is about partnership. Partnering with your body, with caregivers, and with trusted medical guidance creates steadiness. That steadiness protects not only physical health, but emotional balance and dignity, which matter deeply at every stage of life. Emotional safety. When hearing comparisons between viruses. When older adults hear viruses compared to one another, the body often reacts before the mind has time to sort out the facts. I have watched this happen in exam rooms and living rooms for many years. Shoulders tense, breathing becomes shallow, thoughts jump ahead to loss of control or disruption of routine. This reaction is not weakness. It is the nervous system trying to protect you. Emotional safety is an essential part of health, especially as we age. The brain and the immune system are deeply connected. When fear rises and stays elevated, sleep becomes lighter, appetite changes, and concentration fades. Over time, this strain can affect physical resilience. Calm understanding does the opposite. It steadies the nervous system and allows the body to use its energy wisely. Comparisons between viruses are often made in medical settings to help doctors think clearly. They are not meant to measure your personal risk or predict your future. When those comparisons reach the public without explanation, they can feel heavy. My role and the purpose of this channel is to place information back into a human context, where it can be absorbed gently. In my caregiving experience, seniors thrive when information arrives in a trusted, familiar voice. They want to know what matters without being rushed. They want to understand without being startled. Calm learning protects dignity because it allows choice. You can listen, pause, and reflect rather than react. This is why community matters. When you learn alongside others who share your stage of life, worry softens. Questions feel welcome. Silence feels safe. Senior Health Daily was created to be that kind of space. A place where health information supports routine instead of disrupting it, and where emotional steadiness is valued as much as medical accuracy. Before we continue, if this video is helping you understand your health, please subscribe, like, and share Senior Health Daily. It gives us the motivation to create more life-saving content for you. Staying informed does not require constant vigilance. It requires trusted sources and a pace that respects how the mind processes change. Many older adults tell me they feel relief simply knowing they have a place to return when headlines feel loud. That sense of return is powerful. Understanding protects more than the body. It protects sleep, memory, and confidence. It helps caregivers remain patient and helps families communicate with kindness. Emotional safety allows the immune system to function without interference from chronic stress. As we continue together, remember that you are allowed to learn without carrying the weight of urgency. Health is supported by calm presence. Knowledge shared with care becomes reassurance, and reassurance is one of the most healing gifts we can offer ourselves as we age. Why some viruses feel more frightening than others? Some viruses feel frightening not because they are close to us, but because they are unfamiliar. I have seen this pattern repeat over decades of medical care. When something is new, rare, or poorly explained, the mind fills in the gaps with imagination. That imagination often leans toward danger, even when actual exposure risk is low. Headlines play a powerful role here. Comparisons are often made quickly, with strong language designed to capture attention. When a virus is described next to another well-known illness, the brain links them emotionally before it understands them medically. For older adults, this can stir memories of past health crises and awaken a quiet fear that life might suddenly become unpredictable again. What is important to remember is that familiarity reduces fear, even when the illness itself is serious. Seasonal flu feels less frightening because we recognize its pattern. We know what recovery usually looks like. We know when to rest and when to seek care. With emerging viruses, that pattern is missing, so uncertainty takes its place. I often tell my patients that the nervous system prefers certainty over comfort. When certainty is missing, anxiety grows. Comparison headlines amplify this effect by offering contrast without context. They tell you what something is being compared to, but not why the comparison exists or where it stops. In caregiving environments, I see how this anxiety can quietly affect routine. Sleep becomes lighter. News consumption increases. Conversations circle back to the same worries. Over time, this vigilance can drain energy that the body needs for healing and resilience. Emotional strain does not stay in the mind alone, it settles into the body. Understanding the psychology behind fear restores balance. When we recognize that fear often comes from unfamiliarity rather than proximity, we regain perspective. We remember that most viruses discussed in medical research are studied precisely so they do not reach everyday life. Preparation happens quietly so daily routines can remain steady. For seniors, this perspective is especially important. You have lived through many moments that once felt uncertain and later became understood. Experience has taught you that not every alarming message requires action. Some require patience and explanation. Calm awareness is not denial. It is discernment. It allows you to choose how much attention something deserves. It protects memory and focus. It honors the wisdom that comes with age. As we move forward, hold on to this truth. Fear grows in silence and confusion. Understanding softens it. When information arrives with care, anxiety loosens its grip. That emotional steadiness supports both mental clarity and physical health, helping you remain grounded in the life you are living now. A caregiving perspective for families and gentle conversations with aging parents. In many families, it is adult children who first hear about new viruses and feel the urge to protect their parents. That instinct comes from love. Yet I have seen how easily those conversations can become tense when worry moves faster than understanding. From years of caregiving, I know that how we talk about health matters just as much as what we say. Older adults value dignity deeply. They have lived full lives, made countless decisions, and carried responsibility for others. When information arrives sounding urgent or corrective, it can feel like their independence is being questioned. Even well-intentioned warnings can land as pressure. This is especially true for parents who already fear becoming a burden. A calmer approach begins with partnership. Instead of leading with risk, begin with respect. Ask what they have heard. Listen without interruption. Many seniors appreciate being included in the conversation rather than spoken to. When they feel heard, they are more open to discussion. It also helps to frame information as shared learning rather than instruction. Saying we are both learning about this keeps the tone balanced. It reminds everyone that understanding evolves and that questions are welcome. This approach protects emotional safety and keeps trust intact. I often encourage families to focus on routine rather than threat. Discussing habits like hand hygiene, rest, and staying informed through trusted sources feels supportive rather than alarming. These topics reinforce normalcy and allow parents to feel capable rather than vulnerable. For families caring for loved ones with memory changes, patience becomes even more important. Repetition may be needed. Tone matters more than detail. Calm voices help prevent confusion from turning into distress. When conversations are gentle, the information settles more easily. Adult children sometimes carry their own anxiety into these talks. That is understandable. Naming that concern privately can help prevent it from spilling into urgency. Parents often sense emotional shifts even when words are careful. Grounding yourself first creates space for steadier dialogue. What reassures me most is watching families grow closer through respectful communication. When health conversations are rooted in dignity, they strengthen connection rather than strain it. Seniors feel valued. Caregivers feel trusted. Understanding virus risks does not require heavy conversations or constant reminders. It requires mutual respect and shared calm. Families who approach health as a partnership protect more than physical well-being. They protect relationship, memory, and peace. As we continue, remember that caregiving is not about control. It is about presence. When information is shared with patience and kindness, it becomes a source of confidence rather than worry. That kind of care supports healthy aging for everyone involved. What doctors mean by deadly and how that differs from lived experience. When doctors use the word deadly, it carries a very specific meaning inside medicine. Outside the clinic, that word can feel heavy and personal. Over the years, I have learned that much of the fear around virus comparisons comes from a gap between medical language and lived experience. Closing that gap brings relief. In medical terms, deadly refers to the potential severity of illness under certain conditions. It is often based on outcomes observed in specific outbreaks, places, and moments in time. Those numbers help researchers understand how an illness behaves and how care can be improved. They are tools for preparation. They are not predictions about your life or your daily safety. Lived experience is different. It includes where you live, how exposure happens, the care systems around you, and the choices you make to protect routine and well-being. Two people can hear the same statistic and feel entirely different levels of risk because their circumstances are different. This is why statistics should never stand alone. They need context to be meaningful. I have seen seniors hear the word deadly and immediately think about loss of independence or being taken away from familiar routines. That response is understandable, yet it is not what medical language intends. Doctors speak about severity so that systems can be ready, and caregivers can respond early. Preparedness reduces harm. It does not create it. Another important distinction is timing. Fatality statistics often come from early outbreaks when knowledge was limited and care protocols were still developing. Over time, understanding grows. Support improves. Outcomes change. Medicine learns continuously, and those lessons quietly shape safer responses long before most people are aware. Preparedness also includes emotional readiness. When people understand what words mean, the nervous system relaxes, sleep improves, attention returns to daily life. This emotional steadiness supports physical resilience, especially for older adults whose bodies respond best in calm conditions. I often remind my patients that medicine looks at possibilities so that people can live in realities. Knowing how doctors use language allows you to hear information without absorbing fear. It gives you the freedom to ask questions and choose trusted sources rather than react to headlines. Separating fatality statistics from lived experience restores dignity. It respects your ability to understand without being alarmed. It honors the wisdom that comes from years of navigating health decisions thoughtfully. As we continue together, remember that words in medicine are tools, not verdicts. They guide preparation, not fate. When you understand that difference, information becomes empowering. It supports routine, patience, and confidence, which are among the strongest protectors of health as we age. What truly protects seniors the long term across all viruses? After decades of caring for older adults through many different health concerns, I can say this with confidence. What protects seniors most over the long term is not constant alertness or chasing every new headline. It is routine, emotional calm, patience, and trusted guidance. These elements may sound simple, but they are powerful, especially when practiced consistently. Routine creates stability for both the body and the mind. Waking at a familiar time, eating regular meals, staying gently active, and resting well give the immune system a predictable rhythm to work within. The body responds best when it knows what to expect. For seniors, routine also supports memory, mood, and confidence. It quietly reinforces independence. Emotional calm plays a larger role in physical health than many people realize. Chronic worry activates stress responses that interfere with sleep, digestion, and immune balance. I have seen patients recover more smoothly when they feel emotionally safe, even when facing serious illness. Calm does not mean ignoring health information. It means receiving it in a way that does not overwhelm the nervous system. Patience is another form of protection. Aging bodies heal differently. They may need more time and more rest. Accepting that rhythm prevents frustration and self-blame. Patience allows seniors to listen to their bodies instead of pushing past limits. It also encourages families and caregivers to move at a pace that preserves dignity. Trusted guidance brings everything together. Knowing where to turn for clear, steady information reduces the urge to search endlessly for answers. It prevents confusion and emotional fatigue. Seniors benefit most when health guidance comes from familiar voices that respect their life experience and values. This trust supports better decision-making and healthier boundaries around news and media. Across all viruses, from familiar seasonal illnesses to rare conditions discussed in medical research, these foundations remain the same. Routine anchors the day. Emotional calm protects resilience. Patience honors the body's pace. Trusted guidance replaces noise with clarity. I often remind my patients that health is not built in moments of crisis. It is built quietly over time through daily choices that support steadiness. Seniors who protect their routines and emotional balance are better prepared for whatever health challenges arise, without living in anticipation of them. As we come to the end of this section, I want you to know that you are already doing many things right simply by seeking understanding. Staying connected to calm, respectful health information is an act of self-care. Senior Health Daily exists to support that choice. Whenever questions arise or headlines feel heavy, this is a place you can return to for reassurance, clarity, and companionship on your journey of healthy aging. As we come to the close of this conversation, I want to slow everything down with you. Take a breath. Comparing Nipah virus to other deadly viruses does not mean danger is approaching your door. It means you chose understanding instead of confusion. You chose to listen rather than turn away. That choice matters. Over many years of caring for older adults, I have learned to admire the quiet strength of the aging body. It may move more slowly, but it carries wisdom. It knows how to adapt. It knows how to rest. It knows how to heal when given patience and respect. I'm deeply grateful for that resilience, and I hope you can feel gratitude for your own body too. It has carried you through seasons of change, loss, and growth, and it is still here, still responding. Dignity, patience, and calm awareness are not small things. They are powerful forms of protection. Health is not about controlling every possible outcome. None of us can do that. Health is about connection. Connection to your body, connection to trusted guidance, connection to people who speak to you with care rather than urgency. Steady learning allows fear to soften and confidence to return. I often tell my patients that staying informed does not mean staying worried. It means staying grounded. When information arrives gently, it supports sleep, routine, and peace of mind. Those are essential parts of well-being, especially as we age. If health news ever feels overwhelming, I want you to remember that you are not meant to carry it alone. Senior Health Daily is here as a calm and reliable place you can return to. There is no pressure to act, no rush to decide, only presence, reassurance, and trust. Thank you for spending this time with me. If this conversation helped you feel steadier or more at ease, I invite you to stay connected with Senior Health Daily. We are here to walk alongside you with warmth, patience, and respect, today and in the days ahead.